Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Market Check, brought to you by BB. There is no second best daily YouTube live stream to talk about markets. Welcome back, guys. I can't believe we're almost halfway through the month of April, but let's have a great start to the week. Happy Monday. Hope, like I said, everybody had a great weekend. Not just on the team, but of course the audience as well. Maybe you were watching the Masters. Maybe you were just getting out, enjoying the brand new spring weather that's showing its head in some places. At least it is here where I am living. But yeah, we've got some green, not just outside, but also in the markets today to start this week. The VIX getting crushed about 14-15%. Equity markets, specifically the S&P up 1%, the Qs up 1%. ETH leading Bitcoin today. We will discuss these things and more. But first, you guys have to hit the like button, right? I would be remiss if I didn't ask. We got to set the stage for a great week. Start the week off right. If you guys could smash the like button for us, we would be ever appreciative and in your debt, right? But we'll cook for you regardless, guys. We've got a lot to talk about. The volatility in the market just continues, right? But before we can get into it, if you could do your part and create some volatility on the like button for us, that would be great. But let's get into it, guys. Enough yapping for me. Like I said, indices are green today, largely because we are finally getting our first volatility crush, flirting with breaking that 30 level that is oh so important on the VIX, right? We've talked about how that is kind of an important level where we often see hedges come in from larger institutions and really just kind of bull players in general. And of course, crypto is following suit, right? Bitcoin up 1%, but really showing, I think, that strength earlier than today. You know, we kind of saw it over the weekend, specifically on things like Solana, I think, which has been creeping up here over the last week or so, finally showing strength after just this very prolonged period of weakness that it's been in since basically the highs. It's had the unlocks in the meantime. Today, we've got ETH leading the market up about 4%. ETH Bitcoin up 3% just about. You know that we will talk about, you know that we're going to be debating if ETH strength is a good or bad omen throughout today's show. But yeah, strength in the altcoin market once again. Our incredibly humorous risk on indicator, Fartcoin, is up 14 to 15%. Anytime the market is green, that always seems to be not just showing strength first, but always outperforming the rest of the market. But I won't ramble. I guess we should probably also talk about what happened with OM this weekend on the topic of volatility. If you've been following crypto markets, you know that these things swing up and they swing down. And we've had a lot of opportunity for both here. So yeah, quite a bit to talk about. A lot of stuff always seems to happen in crypto over the weekends. But let's get into it, guys. How are we feeling about the markets today? How are we feeling about anything that happened over the weekend? And yeah, let's get into it.
I knew that chart was riddled with crime. The OM chart. Mm-hmm. I think we actually talked about it too on a market check, because like you could just tell how it was going up. But yeah, that was pretty wild. Glad I wasn't invested in that. Hopefully not too many people were.
I want to say we talked about it like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
We did.
Like it was pretty recent.
So I think
we were like, yeah, that's crime.
The thing we were talking about is like it's been up only, but no one that we know owns it or was trading it. It was like the one thing that was performing the best, but no one had any. It just like silently happened. No one was talking about it. Super weird.
Wow.
Looks like Luna, man.
Literally 95% down, one candle. It was much faster than Luna.
This is so Luna-like.
It kind of, I'll tell you what it kind of reminds me of is the FTT chart a little bit.
No, Luna way more. Or how does it remind you of FTT? FTT had a base and then it broke it.
No, I know. Just like the last base that it formed. I mean, it's like a kind of a compressed version of what FTT did. on its second top before it literally just went to zero. Not that I caught this. I wish I did. I had it was kind of funny. I had a friend who in my Discord, he said, yeah, I'm going to short this thing, laughing when it's going to be down 70%. And literally like 5 minutes later, he's like, wait, it went to zero. But yeah, no, I mean, my understanding about what happened here is that Binance increased their margin requirements like they did on some of their other coins about 2 weeks ago. And whoever was just kind of manipulating this higher with crime could not support price anymore. And just everybody started selling. The exit door was very small. And that's how you got that candle. I still don't even know what Mantra does. I think it's a real world asset platform. It seems like
Yeah.
the only utility of it is selling the token to buy real world assets.
Someone goes from OM to zero money.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
I mean,
this right here was like, yeah.
It reminds me so much of like TRB as well, or Luna,
Yeah.
you know, and stuff. It's sort of like we all know it's a scam up move and everyone's trying to short it, but then it goes up and then it goes up again and then it goes up again and then it goes up again. And then one day it just violently decides to drop. And it's so hard unless you are an insider to know the exact day. And you can get burned by either fees or just the price ending higher trying to short this one. But I suppose at some point it's going to work. But yeah.
75% in 1 hour.
I just hope most people stayed safe, or if obviously you were positioned with a small portion of your overall equity. And this is also the reason why you want to diversify. And OM wasn't like small token anymore.
No.
It was worth billions, you know, and Luna was worth billions. And yeah, I was posting earlier today. This is a prime example of a chart why people want to gamble in crypto but not invest in crypto.
Yeah, it's true. Sad to see.
I think it was like some VC firm dumping is what happened. I saw some on-chain analysis about it. Let me see if I can find it. So it was, let me find the tweet.
By the way, before you find it, what do you guys make of the fact that CZ, like people asked CZ about it, that he should like, hey, we trust you as a exchange to do the due diligence for us, right? And he was like, yeah, but this is an, you know, open market. What do you guys think is like, what would you rather have? Like on one hand, I think CZ is right in a sense that you do not want to really limit, or like you want to kind of let it up to the people to do the due diligence, right? And invest responsibly. On the other hand, you kind of do want, you know, especially if it's like not traded on like a shit-tire exchange, but on a leading world exchange, you kind of expect them to do the due diligence, right? So I'm not even sure what's the right approach.
I think there's a balance that we can strike, right? Because our market is, I mean, famously decentralized, right? And you can debate how decentralized it is, but you know, we have a market with very few roadblocks to be able to invest, to participate. I think at the same time, if you are, like you said, Jackus, if you are viewed as the world's leading exchange, you do have some sort of, at least if you want to keep your users, right, you have some responsibility to gatekeep the projects that are not just complete and utter scams that could pull something like this. So I think there's a happy medium, right? Like you don't want an organization like Binance to completely regulate what people can invest in, but at the same time, you know, you have a lot of trust that you've built up with your community that you do have some degree of responsibility to protect them.
Yeah, I think nowadays the reason people choose Binance is due to liquidity and security issues. But like if you wanna right, if you know that one of the biggest assets there are to trade, something that's been steadily going up, you kind of expect them to have done the due diligence. For if they not, which is totally fair approach, but then kind of that like leads you, why would I be on Binance, right? To some again, the liquidity is good and security too, but at the same time, I think there are better opportunities elsewhere, because usually what we've seen so far the past few years is anything that trades or gets listed on Binance is just down only, basically.
Yeah, I guess I'm all for the free market and letting people just kind of lever up however they see fit for themselves, but I think it's also important for the longevity of a lot of assets to not allow people to completely just act like idiots. So I don't know. I mean, I don't mind the additional like margin requirements in one regard, because I think it's probably more sustainable. But yeah, I think specifically with Binance, like Binance is so important to crypto. Like we can't have a situation where Binance, like we can't end up with a situation where Binance goes down or there's even Binance FUD. So in that regard, I think it's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm torn on it. It's tough, right? But we have on chain now, so like if people want to like trade this stuff, they could find a way to trade it on chain. So like as an exchange, as a centralized entity, like maybe you should have some due diligence to kind of just. I mean, they can't control everything, right? It's just going to happen no matter what. But as being the biggest exchange, they do have some sort of responsibility to their customers. Like, hey, stuff on here that we list on our exchange that we allow you to buy, we do our due diligence on, but at the end of the day, I agree with, it just being a free market, but being a free market, like people can buy this stuff on chain. So let them go do that. And people that are using your exchange that trust you, just try to keep them a little more safe if you could, but I don't know.
I think Hyperliquid's going to flip Binance within like 5 years, probably, as long as it doesn't just get zeroed out somehow. I
They
think
wouldn't have been attacking it if they weren't competition.
What was that?
I feel like they wouldn't have been trying to attack it if they weren't worried about it.
100%.
Louis, what are you seeing with Bitcoin here? Lower time frames, it's looking a little curly.
Yeah.
We're kind of flirting with a little local trend line breakout here.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the weekly. I'm looking at the RSI here. We're pretty much in the area where, weekly RSI comes slightly below the 50, but rallies out of here. So like this is like the deepest you've seen the RSI on the weekly come the last two consolidations we've seen on Bitcoin this entire move off the lows. And we've seen continuation, right? So we're kind of in that area once again. Weekly RSI comes slightly below the 50, holds its ground, and then goes. So, just for a high time frame confirmation, easy as it sounds, but just look for a reclaim of a 50 on the weekly RSI for Bitcoin. And you'll likely probably see another move to the upside, right? Maybe you get a lower high here again. Who knows, right? And then you get a higher high on price. You get this big leg or whatever it is. And then, who knows if we see the top here, right? Like 1, 2, 3. And then, you go into a bear market kind of like here, right? In 2022. So just something I'm looking at, but we're in the area where you usually find if we're not going into a bear market, this is where Bitcoin has been finding its footing on the weekly RSI, and continuing its trend, right? After consolidating, these have all been multi-month consolidations, right? These haven't been short consolidations. So, it hasn't been easy. It definitely hasn't been an easy Bitcoin cycle. This is like the first Bitcoin cycle we've ever seen with just massive time-based capitulations on the way up. Usually it's kind of just slow and steady, and then you get the big scary drops and then continuation. This has been, a very, very tough cycle to navigate, if you want to even call it a cycle anymore, but I like where we're at on the weekly RSI. Would like to see this push back above the 50 and then go for another leg. And that's where, you probably get our next leg up for Bitcoin, which I think is coming, Lower time frames, you pretty much have to reclaim 92K. You got to reclaim 92K. That is because that's the structure that we lost, right? That was our topping range, right? So daily time frame, working on we printed a triple bullish divergence on the daily RSI. 3 lower lows with price, 1, 2, 3, 3 higher lows on the RSI. And now we're pushing above the 50 level on the daily. That's what we wanted to see. That's what I've been talking to our Discord guys about. Daily holding above the 50 on RSI is going to give us the juice to come back into this area. And this is the 92K area, right? And when we get up here is when people really need to start paying attention, right? It really comes down to this. Bitcoin comes up into here. This is a bearish underside retest after a loss of structure, rolls over, fails to reclaim. This, I would be extremely, extremely cautious if you see something like this. And I'd be looking to get out of the markets, at least in the near term, right? But if Bitcoin can do this, come up into here, obviously, if you see a big move from here, I'm not expecting this just to blow right through 92K. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a slight rejection, but you want to see continued pressing into this level. You want to see us break back inside the range. And if we could flip this, reclaim this range, right? And we could flip this into support and start to go. This is confirmation to me that Bitcoin's going to go for at least, back to the old all-time highs, but more likely that next leg, which I think is coming. So 92K is the big level, right? I think from now until then, we're probably going to continue to grind higher. I think alts and ETH are going to continue to squeeze higher from here until we see Bitcoin come into this level. And then we see, right? And then it's decision time up in here. So that's kind of how I'm looking for and playing this. And that's why I've been doing whatever I could the last couple months to accumulate as much as I can at each of these extreme lows and get exposure to the market. And right now that's working out well, right? Looking to break this downtrend that's been kind of capping us since the highs. I really like the daily RSI trying to get back above 50. If we can print that today, maybe we see some pullback consolidation here. I think a big move up to 92K is coming. And until then, I think altcoins and the overall crypto market's going to do well. And then we see what happens when Bitcoin gets up into here.
Yeah, makes sense to me. I don't know how we feel about ETH showing more strength here than Bitcoin. Is this time different?
I mean, eventually it will be.
I think it is because I think both are bullish here, and I think both have higher to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we haven't even really seen ETH squeeze just yet.
PTSD is high with everyone.
Yes. Yes. See, like this looks like ETH is putting in the base before it actually squeezes, right? This looks like this. So like we've been seeing some nice action out of altcoins. But ETH hasn't even moved yet, realistically. So this is kind of, this is the squeeze that you'd want to see at an ETH. up into here, this area. And then we see, right? So if we get Bitcoin at 92K, likely we get ETH squeezing, back to 2,300. And then again, it's the same thing. It's either ETH can start to reclaim these levels and start climbing higher back inside the range, or this is just your last squeeze before, something like this, right? So it's either that or it's this. It's one or the other.
Lots of people don't realize this, but this is, I say this is do or die for the bulls, but lots of people also do not understand this is do or die for the bears on ETH, as crazy as that might think or seem to some. Bears are on a do or die level here on ETH as well. I understand many will not understand it, but that's kind of on them.
Well, your boy has been putting in a lot of effort to save ETH here. And who is your boy? Consult the profile picture.
I mean, that's a nice weekly candle on ETH as well, guys. Like, this is what you want to see at a level that we were talking about 2 weeks ago, saying this is it. Like, it's do or die here, And then this is the weekly candle you get. Nice, nice doji, all wick to the downside, closed inside the structure, closed back inside market structure. And all you need this week is follow through, right? You print something like this, you got your morning star on the weekly. That's enough juice to get you back up into here. And then we see what happens up in here. Again, it's this, roll over and then it's screwed, or it's back inside. We're back in the range. I'll see you at 4K. It's one or the other. But this is where we needed to see the reaction. We got it. Now we just need follow through, right? We just need follow through. And as long as this wick low is respected, I'm considering this the low. So.
Pump it.
He sold.
I mean, it does make sense, right? Like, I think if bears are going to put in like a death spiral on ETH, it probably comes from underneath that red box that you have there, Louis.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's really bears that need to prove something here. Like they need to kill this chart and kill it. Really, they need to kill it right here, right now. Because I feel if they don't, then one sequence of events will lead to another, and they will get to a territory which they will not be able to come back from. But the same thing goes for bulls. It's really like on the edge here.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it goes without saying this is kind of like the single most important level for ETH on the chart. I don't know if it's going to be like a sudden reversal. I think it's going to have to be kind of like a slow grind here in the end of April, higher. And if that's the case, you're probably going to rip towards the beginning of May, right? I think that's what I would like to see to get bullish on ETH again, or really like ETH adjacents. But yeah, I'm not feeling the best about ETH at these levels, personally.
Yeah, I still think that it's going to be BTC leading. I still think BTC is going to outperform ETH for a little longer, but the USD pair needs to hold. But yeah, BTC is looking good, real good, and is it likely going to lead?
I think Bitcoin dominance is about to spike the last cycle highs within the next few months. I'm just not sure what USD is going to do.
Look at us go. This chart is crazy.
Can you put a weekly RSI on ETH BTC? I think this is one of the lowest in its entire history.
Yep.
Yeah,
pretty much.
That's crazy.
Since September 2019.
It's like,
yeah. but that's good. Right, this is where we marked the low here in September 2019. Never came back to that level until now. Until now. Insane. Yeah, I don't see a scenario where this type of price action doesn't lead to at least one big move, at least.
I've never really seen that happen before unless it's a rug pull, which I don't think that ETH is a rug pull, but
yeah, unless ETH is actually dead.
Yeah. It's crazy how low the bar has been moved on ETH, man. It's like, just give us dead cat bounce. That's all we're asking for.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy.
It's like the textbook limp meat.
I don't think I've ever seen a pattern like this before. Because usually if it's a rug pull, it looks like the Ohm chart or Luna,
Yeah.
This is just...
It almost makes it more soul crushing that it looks the way that it does.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Did we get some like tariff news locally? I noticed we jumped down a little bit. No, I guess
I don't see anything. We're just chopping.
I think it makes sense for Bitcoin just to, sweep the weekend low. Honestly, we're kind of just flagging up. This is like super low time frame here, but we're kind of just flagging up here. This is our weekend low. Weekends, holidays, they usually like to sweep those moves, right? And then go back to doing what they're doing. So, as long as we're up here in this market structure, this white zone, we're okay, right? So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they did something like this, sweep this, but then we continue flagging, consolidating up here, and then we go for this, something like this. So, this makes the most sense to me. And then we'll see, right? Anywhere in this white box is good, right? But I like that we held the high ground over the weekend.
99 times out of 100 weekend positions get revisited during the trading week.
And that's why I don't even pay attention during the weekends anymore. Just like not really constructive or worth it. Kind of more or less where did we hold on to our gains or did we not? That's really what I like to look for. And that's what we did, right? Friday, we started breaking this downtrend here. Weekend, we pushed up a little bit, but we more or less just kind of just ranged and consolidated up here. That's all we needed to do over the weekend. Kind of did its job. So let them sweep the low, right? And then hopefully we can hold the high ground and then start working back to the upside. And then they go for the breakout. I think that makes most sense. And I think we're going to continue to squeeze up into here, right? Unless, this kind of gets back underside, rolls over. But I don't think that we've managed to come up into this trend line 3 times, right? We failed here. We failed here. I don't think we came back for a third try to get back above just to roll over again. That doesn't really make much sense. And if we were going to roll over and go lower, we should have done it on this move, right? And came into here. But we didn't, right? And now we're breaking the downtrend. We're working on holding this high ground. Higher up into 92K makes the most sense at this point to me.
I'm going to Tommy the chart from you for a second. This is what I'm watching pretty closely here. I'll make these labels a little bit bigger. We've got this. Come on. My trading view has been so slow. We've got our yearly VWAP, which we've talked about since we were there, the significance of it holding. Because when you lose the yearly VWAP, typically you're cooked for a while. So we held there. This 30-day VWAP, the blue one's been holding us down for quite some time, right? We got a little deviation above, right? Kind of just between like the 30 and then the 60-day. This is the 1 month and 2 month rolling VWAP. And right now we're just kind of stuck wedged here again, between like the quarterly open and the 60-day rolling VWAP, which of course just perfectly happens to line up with, this mega downtrend that we've been stuck in, right? I think where you can start to see a lot of fun happen, maybe you take out the quarterly open. If you can flip the 60-day VWAP, you know, and hold around these levels, then I think you open the door to like, you know, mid 90s again, taking out this high, because you can kind of view this as a range, right? You can view this as range low, range high, but you can see pretty clearly what's holding us down right now. And it's like, you know, 30 and 30, 60 day, and then, you know, this diagonal right here. So we'll see. Maybe they just want to flush it below the quarterly open, take out the weekend longs. But I mean, until we conquer this downtrend right here, you know, the 30 and 60 day rolling, we're just kind of stuck. But I don't think it looks too bad ultimately. I mean, let me throw on a volume profile here. Yeah, you've got your kind of range, point of control, value area low. I mean, you're just kind of chopping away, right?
This is the area to flip. Yeah. I love how, like, that's what I love about TA. Like, I'm looking at it one way, you're looking at it the other way, but the levels are the same. You know, it's just, I love it.
This mid 80s level is, I mean, it's everything, right? You flip this level, I think 94, 95, 96 can happen. Yeah. Without question, I think you could put in some symmetrical deviations, like, and then we can reassess. But until you get through this level, stuck. But yeah, I just wanted to show you what I was looking at. I'll go back to you, Louis.
I think the best thing Bitcoin could do from here is slow grind into 92. Might not be like super enjoyable for a few weeks, but if you're slow grinding into 92 rather than like spiking into it, I think that would look not just like much healthier price action, but you're probably priming for a much larger move higher if that's the case. But at the same time, you know, like this 85 level is very, the supply here has proven to be quite sticky. We've rejected from it multiple times. You got to get above 85 before we, you know, obviously before we can break 92.
Yeah, I would agree. 85, right? So like above 85, boom, right? Above 85, boom. Below 85, dead, right? Above 85, boom, right? Above 85, boom. So yeah, 85 is the level, right? You start break. 85 is literally the top end of this white box I have here, this white price action zone. So, and you know, seeing some resistance here, right? So, you know, sweep this, hold this level, right? Go for it again. You break this, you know. I don't know if we're going to see a slow grind or not. I can't, you know. But 85K is definitely the level for sure. So that is what we're watching. That is what we're watching. What are equities doing? Kind of selling off. So we gapped up off the open, I think. So backfilling those gaps, I'm fine with that. You know, S&P, you know, we kind of want to see this levels like reclaimed, this white box, in my opinion. You know, anywhere in here. We want to see this flipped, right? Anywhere above this white box reclaimed, you know, S&P has a good shot to start heading higher. But you know, this was a very steep kind of V, so we'll see.
I still can't believe that green candle off the low. Like, was it plus 10% or something? That's insane.
That's a meat stick right there.
It really is.
It's really funny watching
11%
Congress talk about investigating insider trading because of that candle. I'm like, where have you been?
Yeah,
I know. It's so funny. All these politicians just clearly insider trade, and everybody knows it, and they all just pretend like no one's doing anything. For years, they've been doing it. They all get paid like 150 to 250K, and they're worth like $100 million. And it's like, well, That's pretty crazy. They'll just buy some like obscure company that's about to get some government contract or something.
Yeah. Some like pharmaceutical company, like nobody
They're just
knows
like, oh,
about.
it's just good luck, you know. I'm just buying stuff, no problem.
I like the dev.
Yeah, literally. So much crime.
What alts are intriguing you guys right now? Because obviously we are seeing, at least over the weekend, we were finally seeing some strength out of things like Solana. I mean, it goes without saying that Fartcoin's been strong. Some Solana meme coins began to show a little bit of strength as well. I mean, Pepe has been just kind of slow grinding higher through this chop on majors. So I think and Hyperliquid obviously as well has shown a lot of strength. So I think there are some alts that do look a little bit perky at the moment. Obviously going to need more follow through to confirm kind of some trends on a few of them, but we are seeing some strength out of them. If you guys have anything that particularly sticks out, I'd love to talk about it.
I mean, yeah, base Farcoins are, I think, a clear one, or the other Farcoin as well. Both of the Farcoins doing very well. You know, I'm particularly in base Farcoin, so that's what I'm charting here. And we're coming into a big level, right? This is a beautiful rounding bottom off the lows, stair-stepping key levels here, you know, and we're pretty much at the mid-range, right? We got a lot of supply we're coming into. But, you know, if we could successfully flip this, I see no reason why we can't, you know, come into the range highs and at the old all-time high at a minimum, right? And just simple range trading, right? So, you know, this is just good price action, just grinding, starting to curl up, you know. I think we continue to see this show strength, right? I think I see no reason why not, unless the market does a complete U-turn of what we've seen the last, 5 to 6 days. So just one of the strongest tokens off the lows. This and the Sol Farcoin. So, but yeah, I mean, beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff.
It's also dependent on what Bitcoin does. Obviously, everything is just like a derivative of Bitcoin. And I think that Bitcoin can hold around these levels and move higher. But obviously, you're not going to, if Bitcoin were to flush here, you're not going to see anything hold up, which is unfortunate, but that's just crypto. I mean, it's like Nvidia. If Nvidia dumps, equities are going down, right? Kind of a similar dynamic. But I think there are some alts, like Louis mentioned, Fartcoin showing a lot of strength. I think Pepe looks really, really coiled here. Shouldn't surprise anybody to hear me talking about Pepe. But again, it's really just a matter of like, is Bitcoin going to squeeze up into like 90K? If Bitcoin squeezes into 90K, you're going to see Pepe rip like a 2x here pretty quickly. But again, I just keep going back to like, can Bitcoin actually hold this quarterly open? And is this just kind of a like Monday micro drop to flush out, weekend longs, which very well could be. If you were to put Pepe in log, Louis, we got a real nice trend line. So draw it from the all-time high. And then bring it in tighter. So yeah, right there. So exclude the Elon Kekius Maximus profile pick deviation, which was that little squeeze up there at the top. But you got this similar trend line on Pepe that you have on like Total and on Bitcoin. And like there's so much stuff that looks like it's ready to squeeze higher. We just need Bitcoin above 85K. And then we're going to have some fun. Like I really think that mid-range that Louis has right there is probably going to get hit on Pepe if Bitcoin can get above 85. If Bitcoin gets above 85, we're going to squeeze to 90 or 92. If that happens, you'll see something like that. And then we can start doing the debate of, all right, is it a bounce into a shoulder or are we starting to mark up again? Right. But it really all comes down to Bitcoin. But I think that, I mean, this chart, if you just weren't looking at Bitcoin, if you weren't looking at stocks, if you were ignoring the geopolitical tensions, just looking at it from a technical perspective, which of course is important. It's one important component of like the whole picture. It looks squeezy to me. It does. It looks like that bottom in August, September, where it didn't quite hit a double bottom, but kind of like came back into the low. I think you can squeeze
So does
really.
the RSI.
Yeah. Oh, you already have it marked. That's perfect. So it's
almost identical.
It just comes down to Bitcoin though. Like, can we get through that? I showed the 60-day rolling VWAP with that kind of diagonal line on Bitcoin. If we can do that, you're going to see a lot of these, battered and bruised altcoins move up pretty damn hard. So we got some work to do, right? It all comes down to Bitcoin and 85K.
I will say, I know a lot of people are looking for a shoulder at 92. I am viewing that scenario as increasingly or decreasingly likely. I think if you're trading back into 92, you're probably, just the context of where that would put ETH, it's probably not going to be a shoulder. It's going to be bait to trap people into shorting 92. And you go a good bit higher. I actually think this is where bears need to make a stand, is like this 85 to 86K territory.
So you think above 85 is like maybe even closer to 100K squeeze?
Probably higher, but I wouldn't be shorting 92. I think that's just too obvious of a bearish retest.
Fair enough.
And we already did. We really did test it twice, and that's kind of where I'm saying I'll be cautious up there, but in my head I'm like, okay, like we broke structure, we bounced back underside, we tested it once, bang, we tested it twice. If we're coming back up here for a third time, the likely scenario is that, not this, right? But because we've, a lot of us, or I know I did, failed to be more cautious on this drop. I'm kind of forced to be cautious on this move up. But in my head, I'm like, all right, I know we already underside tested this twice, rejected it. If we're coming up for a third time, I agree with Tommy. The more likely scenario is we're flipping this back into support and we're going to go back to the old all-time highs at a minimum. That's kind of how I would look at it. But I have to stick with what I'm thinking is just remain cautious up here, because you could come up here and still see a big pullback, right? You can get rejected. Bears, we start seeing this. Bears pull out the victory laps. Oh, that was the underside retest. That was the exit pump. Haha, you didn't get out. And then, you go like this. And then it's something like this, So regardless, we probably see some sort of reaction up here. But is it going to be the big rollover, or is it just going to be a rejection, hold the high ground, press, and then go,
Louis, could you pull up Tether dominance?
Yeah, I never charted it, so
I'll hold your hand then. Go to the USDTD chart and go to like the 2 hour or 4 hour, something like that. Yeah, 6 hours, fine. So zoom out just a little bit.
Do you want log or?
No, it doesn't need to be log. Do me a favor, draw a trend line from like the January 20th low on that chart. And just drag it across all the lows, all the way through. Are you in log or linear?
I don't know.
Yeah, put it in linear.
There you go.
So you can see like where we're kind of stuck at right now, which again, it perfectly lines up, of course, with like Bitcoin's, downward trend that it's been stuck in. So this is really that hope, is that, Tether dominance can break this trend line, and you'll see Bitcoin, of course, break to the upside from there. So it's just, there's so much confluence across the board where I could really see a big squeeze here for crypto, and of course a breakdown for Tether dominance. But we're just at that kind of final giga Cheeto in the door that needs to give. Guys, stop talking over each other. Come on, this is crazy.
Sorry, there's a car alarm going off in the background. I didn't know if you guys could hear it.
No, I can't hear it.
I had some troubles I had to address as well. Unexpected one. not market related.
Jackus, were you all in Ohm and you just realized it?
Yeah, I was just like sending notes to my family and saying my farewells.
Sending what?
My farewells. Goodbye. It's been nice knowing you in this life, but the crypto overlords fucked me over once again, and I cannot take it anymore. No,
I am completely out of the cryptocurrency market.
the the sad part is that there are some people like this, right? And my like it's always tough because you have to make fun of sort of everything, but at the same time, you know that there are people affected, right? So always like our sympathies with those people. It's obviously not personal, but at the same time, you know, we have to laugh it off to some degree because like you know, certain things are so sad you want to cry and laugh at the same time. So better to laugh. So what do we make of the Monday US Open, guys? This one to be so way more calm than the past one. If you guys remember last Monday Open, everyone was panicking through the weekend and crashing over. This like feels like, I don't know, 2024 price action that we are getting today. Really not much, and I suppose the market is waiting for a new headline like any minute. People that have been in the market for 30 plus years are like, we have never experienced so many headlines coming at us like this. Like, it's so hard to make sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like wild swings back and forth. I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday, and they were like, yeah, futures are ripping, referring to like ES and NQ. And I'm thinking to myself, is 1% in this environment really ripping anymore? Because equities are just swinging back and forth. And it's just making it, when you have like these moves, we've talked about it, it just makes like it almost kind of begets further lack of liquidity because nobody wants to provide bids and asks except for at extremes. When you're seeing this many moves, I think the healthiest thing for this market is for the VIX to materially come down, right? I mean, we kind of tested 30 this morning. We couldn't quite break it down. Maybe we end up doing that later this week. But yeah, we just need to see a little bit of air sucked out of volatility in this market for things to really calm down, I think, more materially. But at the moment, it's just like these wild back and forth swings. If you're a trader, I'm sure you'd love it, right? As long as you can size responsibly, take positions responsibly. You know, if you're convicted in one direction or the other, it can definitely be very frustrating price action that we're seeing. But at the same time, you know, it's almost like equity volatility is more extreme than what we're seeing in crypto right now, which is very funny, right? Like these moves we're seeing on a day-to-day basis relative to what we're used to seeing on the S&P and the NASDAQ. Like Bitcoin feels less volatile, which is just this very strange paradigm shift that we're kind of witnessing. And yeah, somebody made the comment. I saw the meme as well. It's right. It's like tariffs on, tariffs off, and you just watch the market react to all these headlines in real time. It's a very difficult market.
Yeah, and someone is clearly testing the waters with each of these announcements. Like even the 90-day pause, if you remember, we had like a test pump, right? And we discussed this on, it was on Monday. It was on Monday, and then on Wednesday, he announced it fully.
I mean, you'd like to think the market will kind of settle in a little bit. I think that it already kind of is. Like it's reacting to these headlines much less. And now I think at this point, it's going to be more important to pay attention to the drivers of liquidity, right? Like what happens with the US dollar, what happens with the Chinese yuan, what happens with bonds, as like unsexy as that can be. I think that's kind of what the market needs at this point to stabilize itself a little bit, right? Like these assets that we typically collateralize more and more liquidity with, very stable assets that have been very volatile. We need them to just chill the fuck out a little bit.
What's the VIX doing today? Speaking of chilling out, are we chilling out?
It came into 30 and bounced, so I guess it's kind of TBD.
Yeah.
So we could either look at it as, oh, we're retesting that previous range high and we're going to bounce again. But also then if you zoom in, it's like we had a gap down that maybe we're just backfilling today. I don't know.
I think we are like, the WIGS has been tamed here. I think we obviously have some bounces, but I think we are coming back down to filling the one that happened actually during the tariff announcement, the reciprocal tariffs or whatever. So I think we are coming back down there to fill it, and then potentially a new reaction.
We also just technically backfilled this. So it's a little scary. But I would expect this backfill roll over, but I'm no expert on the VIX.
I think what I'm interested to see from the VIX is like what happens with the market, because we've almost kind of been trading negatively correlated with the dollar, right? Because the like typical correlation where risk goes higher as the dollar goes lower hasn't been necessarily present on a lower time frame. Not to say that it won't be on a higher time frame, but you know what happens with risk and what happens with vol if the dollar gives you a little bit of a reversion bounce here back into like 102, 103. And I think that's possible, right? Is it going to trade negatively correlated with the market still, or is it going to be because, you know, people would just rather hold dollars over risk, which in theory would send the VIX higher? As a whole, though, I think if you're getting the VIX below 30, like you're looking at a much larger crush in volatility, and markets will have more breathing room that can last for not just days, but weeks and maybe even months.
Is it entirely going to be news driven? Is that really what we're waiting for?
I don't know if it's like news isn't really driving the market, like, or at the very least it's not having the same immediate impact on price that it did, at least not to the downside. To the upside, I mean, at this point, maybe like a deal with China would have a huge, would definitely cause a huge green candle. But outside of that, you know, I think the headlines are less important as long as they're not completely extreme. But we're getting them. We're getting them all the time, right? Like on a maybe on a 1 to 5 minute time frame, we're seeing volatility from headlines. But like within a daily candle, it's somewhat confined, I feel like, at this point. I don't know if you guys agree with that.
No, yeah, I totally agree. And that's something we've talked about too. You know, like eventually the market's going to start reacting less and less to these news. It's not going to, you know, they're not going to hold the same weight. And I mean, realistically, like we've kind of had all the bad news come out already, and we very quickly priced that in, you know. And what I was saying, you know, a week or two ago is like, you should be watching, right? When you keep getting those negative news headlines, but price is reacting less and less, you know, that's usually the sign of a reversal, right? Like when the negative news stopped affecting price and price is leveling out and not making new lows or not acting as drastic, reacting drastic to that news, you're usually in the area where the market's like, okay, like we had enough of the news. We priced in probably what was the worst case scenario. And as long as things don't get detrimentally worse or whatever, you know, we're likely in the area where you're going to see some sort of reversal. And, you know, we started to see that last week, right? Like the last big negative news event was the 100 and something % tariff on China. That really didn't do much to the S&P. It dropped a little bit, but really held up quite well given the circumstances. And then you saw the China retaliation, and there was really no reaction to that. So we're starting to see the negative headlines affect price less and less. And that's a great sign that you're usually in the general area for some sort of reversal or some sort of cool off, at least at a minimum, and maybe consolidation or ranging or sideways or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Louis, can you put Bitcoin underneath the MSTR chart? Because I think there is a good EM divergence between the two, where Bitcoin made new lows, but MSTR hasn't. And I always like when that happens. Maybe put it as a bar chart underneath.
Yeah.
I still think that MSTR is going to go absolutely ballistic this cycle, like crazy. Like people think that this was already like the top of the bubble. I think it's going to go crazy.
And this is something I was talking about too, as well. You know, like MicroStrategy is already reclaiming its structure, or at least trying to, and Bitcoin hasn't yet, you know.
And look what happened in 2024 during the prior reaccumulation range.
Yeah.
Like the August low, I think it didn't sweep the May one.
They both did, I think.
No, this one didn't sweep the May one. The August one.
Right. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And it was front running to a big degree.
I think potentially part of the flush we're seeing today on Bitcoin is that I believe Michael Saylor was actually buying on the weekend. So this might just be kind of a little local rebalancing that has to occur.
At least for once, he ain't buying the top.
I know. He bought, what, 82.6 supposedly is his average?
That's crazy.
For once, he's not like the top tick.
I wish that he would consult with like crypto traders to just be like, all right, when should I buy? Like, I understand his strategy, but
and do you know what he would tell you, Max? He'd be like, you don't get it at all. I don't care about the price. I own the asset. I don't care.
He would say, how many chairs are you sitting
in?
in?
Exactly.
But yeah, so this is the thing with that, because I'm seeing a lot of people talk about this now. It's like he buys so much when it's going up, but when it's going down, he doesn't buy as much. Well, you have to realize that he is raising money for these buys, right? So people are way, even people with big money, believe it or not, people are way more, willing to throw money at something that's going up than that's going down, right?
And also on that note, Louis, he can raise a lot more money when his stock is trading at a premium.
Right.
So when Bitcoin is down, his stock is not trading at a premium anymore, so he can't raise as much money. Therefore, he doesn't have as much money to buy anymore. So that's why it's a little scary in one regard, where it's like we need Bitcoin trading higher so that he can basically fuel this machine that he has. That's why he gets caught top blasting a lot, to my understanding, is that he can raise more money when his stock is trading at a premium. He raises it every time and then shoves the whole thing into Bitcoin. And his stock only trades at a premium when Bitcoin is pumping. So he always gets kind of caught top blasting, right? But for him, he doesn't view it as top blasting. Like, he just views it as, I want to own as much Bitcoin as I can, however I can possibly own it, right? So I don't think for him it really makes a difference at all.
What I just find absolutely crazy is that man has been buying for nearly 5 years, and his average is basically like where we have the current low. Like, it's just insane. No.
He wouldn't get it.
Michael Saylor.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to go down in history regardless, no? The only question is which way.
I hope he wins, man. I really hope he wins. I hope he's right about everything.
Well, like props to him, because like Trump could have adopted the same strategy, but he just decided to launch a shitcoin on Sol. And Michael never really, dived into anything else but Bitcoin. So props to that.
Yeah, he's going to be a great example about the dangers of leverage, or I guess he's going to be like that copy pasta. Why do I use leverage? God, what is it? It's like 6x leverage, 6 times the profit.
Yeah.
Look, I'm really rooting for him to win. I hope that it happens for sure. But I also see some potential vulnerabilities, but we'll see.
I think he is relatively fine right now, but I think
he's fine right now for sure.
But he can get like the thing is that this thing is fluid, right?
Yeah, I'll give him this, man. Like, he's got the biggest balls in the world, without question. Like, he is just going for it, Like, he's willing to literally bet it all and risk it all. And you have to love a guy with that amount of conviction. Multi-billion-dollar daily swings in his net worth. He just doesn't care, at all. I love it. And all these like crypto native guys are like, my portfolio's down like 100K. I'm gonna kill myself. And Saylor's like, I'm raising more money to buy more Bitcoin.
If he was born 30 or 40 years later, he'd be in the soul trenches. You just know it.
100%.
Probably doing the same thing with like Fartcoin.
He'd be doing a CTO of some shitcoin. He basically CTO'd Bitcoin, man. He's,
Yeah.
How much percentage of a supply he holds now? I think he has 500K of BTC.
It's a lot of Bitcoin.
I think it's over 2%.
Yeah.
I know that. But I think it's like, how do you want to look at it? Because there's 21 million Bitcoin that will ever exist, but like 5 or 7 million Bitcoin are gone forever from the early days.
Yeah.
So it's like he owns 500K Bitcoin, over 500K Bitcoin, and there's maybe 15 million, that will actually ever circulate because so much of it is just gone.
Indeed.
I mean, he could own 3 or 4% realistically.
Jeez.
All right. So he owns 500,000 and 531,000 right now, it seems.
Yeah. Which is unbelievable, man. Think about that. Every time Bitcoin goes up or down $1, it's over $500,000 swing for him. $1.
And let's assume that there is only, well, how much? 15 million?
Yeah, I mean, just say 15 million.
That's 3.5% of supply.
So the potential, and right now, what's there? 19.5 million Bitcoin total?
I think 19 right now.
So there's really more like 12 or 13 million that's actually circulating.
Sorry, I think there is 20 million. I think there is only one last million to be deployed. Wait, let me check.
So we could take 5 to 7 million Bitcoin off the table and just assume that that's gone for good. So realistically, he could control about up to 4% of the total circulating supply currently.
Yeah,
which is insane.
The circulating one is 19.85 million.
Yeah.
So nearly 20.
Imagine one day Saylor wakes up and is just like, I'm selling everything, and just starts dumping, bro. Oh my goodness. It would look like Ohm.
Yeah.
It's the second ticker that we have called Ohm that went down 99%.
Yeah. Do we know how many Bitcoin have been dumped during the China miners move?
What do you mean?
Like when the China miners were moving, I feel there has been lots of coins dumped. I think there was a huge volume back then. Let me check.
Well, I remember back in the last range, we were kind of seeing a pretty major miner capitulation. Is that what I remember talking about it with you, Jack. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, I was referencing to when the miners were moving in 2021. How much Bitcoin have been sold?
Do we have any thoughts on the miner stocks right now? I know that's something that we haven't really talked about in a while.
Yeah, they've been tough. They've been tough to play. I'd imagine if Bitcoin rallies from here, the miners would do well also. But they've been tough. I've made a couple attempts on Mara, just hasn't really worked out. And I'm just looking at it now. At this point, I'm just like, why not? I might as well just play MicroStrategy, just trading way more cleanly. But when the miners run, they run hard. So
I tried to put it into ChatGPT and it still cannot calculate. It just told me that 93 million Bitcoin have been sold in May 2021.
The volume at the top in spring 2021, I imagine from miners, from OG whales, from like everybody, is just insane to look back on in hindsight. That Coinbase IPO listing. I remember I was a noob in the markets when that happened, and I was in hindsight the most like obvious sell the news event ever, and I was so bowled up into it. I think I probably had about like 2 months of market experience under my belt at that point. Live and you learn. Grayscale dumped on me.
yeah.
Jesus, we are getting spammed in the chat. Okay.
All right.
I'm gonna have to clean this up.
We got Max is gone.
This is like the same bot that spams our comments under our videos.
Yeah, I've been seeing that when I go back and watch them.
My word. It's always some coin you've never heard of also.
Yeah.
It's okay though. They're getting nuked slowly but surely. Hoping I'm trying to make sure I don't cause any collateral damage to other people. Jesus, man. They keep coming.
Holy shit.
Damn.
It's like a zombie apocalypse. Yeah, for real. There were so many.
we
Holy
getting
moly.
we getting DDoSed by by bots.
Tommy's on the turret right now. Like
Literally. Can we look at Curve, Louis?
Yeah.
I think I got. Oh my god, I can't get rid of them all, dude.
I'm trying to help you though.
We're gonna accidentally take out like an honest commenter.
I'm afraid if we ban someone accidentally.
If we do, shoot us a message on like Twitter or Discord, and we will get you back. I think we got him now.
No.
Damn, every time I say that, man, there's another one that pops up.
Anyways, back to the miners. In the meantime, while we are nuking the bots, I'm not sure if it's worth playing the miners until the very last stages of the bull market, because it seems to me it doesn't matter if it's Bitcoin miners or if it's silver or gold or oil. Generally they really outperform only at the last stages when things go mental, and then they do outperform really big time. But yeah, it's really tricky to play it.
Yeah, they've been tough.
And then, of course, you can say in hindsight who did the best, but keep in mind that there is many miners out there at the same time too. So you also need to pick. Usually they like all do well, but they still need to do some due diligence on which one to pick.
Remember, we were looking at CleanSpark back in the day.
Yeah, it was one of my really good plays on CleanSpark because I was really buying it just before it went, and then I sold it all on the way up. Actually, I sold it, rebought it, and then sold it all again, and not touched it since. So, but I feel it's getting to pretty decent levels now.
Jackus, what do you think about Curve? I've been seeing a lot more attention on it. Obviously it has the stablecoin narrative. It does look like one of the better charts, I will say. At least, if ETH is forming a bottom, if ETH is getting ready to run, Curve will probably be one of the bigger outperformers. I just don't know if I can bring myself to actually buy it. I feel like it almost kind of reminds me of the sushi chart a year or two ago. What do you think?
I mean, right now it really looks like a good, like right now it looks as one of the best buys when it comes to risk to reward, because basically I wouldn't be buying it right now. I would probably wait for some drop or, wait for a little bit more of range. But I tend to think that, generally at these prices, whether that's like, 50 cents or 60 cents, you are basically looking at a macro upside to come from here. And if it doesn't, then the invalidation is relatively close. I think Curve cannot be going sub 40 cents anymore. So that's kind of where, you would look to cut it. And I do, if you look at the chart, it's been going sideways for 3 years, basically. And if we look, and I understand it's really tough, especially for crypto people who are mostly, young gentlemen who are used to quick dopamine rushes, basically, right? So it's tough to imagine like 3 years sideways. That's nothing for me. But if you look at, even at Apple stock, right? It's been going sideways for like, basically 10 years or even more before it really took off. So this is totally normal in history for price assets appreciation. So yeah, I think it has a potential. If not from now, then from when, right?
That's a good point. What does the market cap chart look like? I don't even think I've looked.
I haven't checked it, and it's a definitely good point. I'm really like, I haven't paid much attention to it. I'm just like checking it right now. So obviously, you want to do more due diligence than just check the chart, go all in, right? But
okay, that looks a little bit more realistic. I remember the Curve Wars, man, back in 2021. I mean, in hindsight, kind of a dumb narrative, but I remember buying Curve at like, I think $2, and I sold it above $6. If you bought $6 Curve, put yourself in timeout.
Honestly, that's not that much of a difference between the market cap and the price. Like I would expected it to be way worse. So yeah, that's actually looking pretty decent.
It's one of the best. If you believe in stablecoin adoption, and I have to say I do.
I do.
Curve is one of the better looking DeFi charts. I mean, Aave looks pretty good too. At least last time I was looking at it. I haven't checked it in a few weeks. But if there's going to be a DeFi coin that does well, I mean, you'd have to imagine that it will eventually be Aave. Maybe Link. We've been looking at that one. But I'm personally not a buyer of DeFi coins yet. maybe maybe that proves to be wrong. I would like to see some more strength from ETH first before I
Yeah, that's fair point. Would you be buyer above like 2K ETH?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I would be.
Yeah, I like curve here, kind of.
Oh my god, I think I got rid of them all.
Hopefully, these bots are from Credible.
The history of the StreamYard chat. I mean, I know that the viewers can't see it, but there are like bodies.
Yeah, there is like 40 of them, isn't it?
At least.
Yeah,
but we got them.
Anyways, I suppose that takes us to the end of the show today. Not much is happening over the weekend and Monday, surprisingly.
Yeah, I think I have a hard time seeing us have a quiet week, though. So I'm sure we'll have plenty more to discuss.
Oh yeah,
on the later shows this week. Louis, could you pull up the BB terminal for me? I'd love to tell our viewers about some of the awesome products that we have if they're looking to get a little bit more exposure to the BB team, and of course, some of the things that we've been building, right? Starting with, guys, our premium Discord, where if you are looking for some of that more intimate access that I just mentioned, we give 4 to 5 hours of calls every single day to our subscribers. We talk about markets. We talk about God, you guys kill me in the comment section, but we talk about markets. We talk about our thoughts on everything that's occurring in real time, and at times even our positioning. So make sure to check out the BB Discord. And we were nice enough to package this together with your go-to tool for this cycle, which is the BB terminal, right? Whether or not you are an active trader, whether or not you are a long-term investor, whether or not you are an on-chain degen, right? We're starting to see the trenches heat up a little bit more as well. We've got the tool for you. So make sure to check out the BB terminal, guys, that we have pulled up on the screen now. Louis is just going to run through some of the features here. Like I said, this is some of our more active trading tools, right? So if you're looking at open interest data, if you're looking at spot CVD, funding premiums, spaghetti charts, and much, much more, it will be contained within the BB terminal. There's really just so many different things that you can find value on or value out of within the BB terminal. And it continues to, I mean, if you guys have been testing it since its inception, I mean, I'm sure you can attest as well that the BB terminal just continues to, I mean, it's rapidly improving and becoming, like I said, your go-to tool for this cycle. I'm going to sound a bit redundant as many times as I say that, but I promise that it will be. But yeah, of course, if you're looking to hone your educational base or even reach trading level mastery, we also have the BB Academy, where if you're looking to learn from the team in a more intimate setting, we have the option for you to be able to do that as well. So check that out. And last, but certainly not least, if you're looking for the team to potentially manage capital for you, right? I mean, we joke about it, but this is a very difficult market to be trading, to be investing in. We have an SEC registered hedge fund where we look to manage capital in a way that capitalizes on crypto's asymmetric history for upside returns while also balancing the downside risk posed in any financial market. So yeah, if anything that I just said over the last 2 minutes resonated with you, check out the description below this video. We've got everything linked there. But otherwise, guys, we'll be back for another episode of Market Check tomorrow, 11 to 11:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is when we typically go live. But make sure to finish up your day as well with Market Talk, hosted by King Wabi. And yeah, that will be live on our X account, because Bitcoin as well as Wabi's account. So make sure to stay following and subscribe to both so you can be notified not just when we schedule those spaces, but also when we go live. But that's it from us, guys. We hope that you enjoyed the show. We'll have to do something about the bots that we had come in at the end of the show, but I think I nuked them all. Maybe they bring in the cavalry at some point, but rest assured, I will be standing guard and watching. But either way, we hope that you guys have a great rest of your day. And of course, as always, stay safe.